Welcome to Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. I'm Rob Wilson.
And I am Tony the Quano.
So, Tony, let's move into the 90s. 1996. You remember 1996, what you were doing that year?
I was doing a lot in 1996. I loved 1996.
1996 was a great year.
It was a great year.
Yeah, great year for movies, great year for just life.
It's like I'm straddling that edge between like grade school and middle school and started expanding some of the stuff you start watching and doing. And you watch an action movie with a bunch of curse words. So you start using a bunch of curse words.
Yep. Speaking of an action movie from 1996 with a bunch of curse words, let's talk about The Rock.
The Rock. No, we're not talking about Dwayne Johnson's nipples.
No, we are not talking about Dwayne The Rock Johnson. We are talking about the movie The Rock, directed by Michael Bay, starring Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage, Ed Harris.
Michael Bain.
Yes, Michael Bain.
William
Forsythe, David Morse.
Tony Todd.
John C. McGinley.
Yes, John C. McGinley.
We talked about him in Point Break.
We did. We said David Morse, Clara Forlani.
Yes,
right?
Claire Forlani.
John Spencer.
Yes, John Spencer.
And also there is another one of my favorite actors. It's strange because like he goes uncredited, but he's got multiple scenes with multiple lines. But Stuart Wilson.
Yes.
From Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Yes. Indeed.
He's also an Enemy of the State and the villain in Lethal Weapon 3. And he was in Hot Fuzz, which we had done. So minor role here, but he's in it. And yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We got San Francisco hippie guy that rides a bike. We got San Francisco trolley guy also. Trolley driver, I should say.
Yes, the trolley driver. He is one of the unsung heroes of this movie. We'll get to him, though.
Yeah. He's halfway through the movie. But no, it's a terrific movie. And I think I probably watched it, not that long after it came out. It's a time of, Nicolas Cage headlining action movies, right?
Yeah.
I think of this is a time when an R-rated action movie could be a legitimate blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
Right? Speed was a couple years earlier. So another action movie that was a big hit. Con Air, Eraser. Even like Terminator 2 is, full-blown action movie as a blockbuster. It was, early 90s. It was a different time. And it's, I guess even the year before was, Michael Bay's first movie that people would have known with Bad Boys, right? So.
Yeah. So this is back when Michael Bay was in his heyday.
Yeah.
Back when he was still making good movies. The one he didn't focus just on explosions. Although there were plenty of explosions.
It didn't last that long because his next movie was like Armageddon, which is when it starts going in a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Armageddon. I like Armageddon.
Yeah, so do I. It's
kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. But it's definitely not as good as this or Bad Boys.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of people in Armageddon that are in The Rock also.
Well, it makes sense. Directors tend to use a lot of the same actors.
But a lot of them are kind of some of the SEAL guys or other Marines. Particularly, there's two of the guys that manned the second shuttle in Armageddon, the one that crashes, essentially. So,
did you know that this movie contains two actors who each had an episode in season 1 of Smallville?
I did not know that.
They each guest starred in an episode of Smallville. So Gregory Sporletter, who plays Captain Fry, and Tony Todd, who plays Captain Darrow.
Oh, that's right. Tony Todd was in
the two actual real villains of this movie.
The real villains, yes.
Both of them had guest roles on season 1 of Smallville. Gregory Sporletter was from the episode Hug. He was the guy that could convince people and basically mind control them by touching them.
I remember that one.
Tony Todd was in the episode Jitters. He was the guy that had the jitters. He would had kryptonite shakes. He would just have seizures brought on by too much exposure to kryptonite by having it embedded in his skin, trying to get out.
Did you also know that one of the SEALs in this movie is played by Marshall Teague, who has one of the highest kill counts of any actor?
Nice.
In terms of on-screen deaths, not him killing people, on-screen deaths.
Yeah.
Combined TV.
I figured you meant fake performance kills rather than an actor who's also a serial killer.
But yeah, he's one of the SEALs that gets killed in the shower room. Spoiler alert.
So you're talking about his character dying, or
his character dies in terms of him being killed. not his character doing the killing.
Okay, so his character dies more than anybody else.
Yes.
More than Sean Bean.
He's been killed off between TV shows, episodes, and movies over 100 times, apparently.
Wow. Wow. All right. Huh. Interesting. So, also back to Gregory Sporletter, he also had a role in Twister, which we did a few weeks ago.
That I was aware of, that he was in Twister. Yes. So I looked him up and just kind of figuring like, okay, what else have I really seen him in? And I saw that he was in Twister. It's weird. So like when I first saw this movie, I knew like William Forsythe was in it, and I thought that was William Forsythe. And not the FBI agent from San Francisco. And it's kind of weird because like that character for William Forsythe is kind of different than what you normally see William Forsythe in.
It is.
Great cast. I mean, It really is.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
You also have, it's funny, like, who is it? We'll get to him too, but one of the other SEALs is also in, who we mentioned, an Eraser, but also Titanic, as DiCaprio's friend that gets crushed by the smokestack. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that's not a spoiler for Titanic, because, I mean, the boat sinks.
That movie is 1 year younger than this one, and most people know that Titanic sinks. I would think most characters in that movie would die.
Mm-hmm.
Unless, it's Molly Brown, because she was known as the unsinkable Molly Brown. So she must not have sunk.
No.
And it's Kathy Bates. So you don't fuck around with Kathy.
Because you don't get on the Titanic with the name The Unsinkable Molly Brown.
No.
You get off of the Titanic and then onto another ship that then sinks, and you get off of that ship, and then you get the name The Unsinkable Molly Brown.
Yeah. There's some really alternate universe, like, badass comic where she's just not just someone that survives like shipwrecks, like she's some cyborg killer, something like that, or
just like a superhero or something.
Well, anyway,
but then also Vanessa Marcil is in this movie.
That's right. So
and so
there's also an Indian remake of this movie, and not sure.
So we got Bokeem Woodbine too.
Yeah, that was the next one.
Which he's been in a lot of stuff. He's had small roles in a lot of stuff. Like he's one of those recognizable actors that
in the background for quite a bit of the movie until like the end. Mm-hmm. But that's right. It was recently a Fargo, and then
he was the sheriff in Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I remember him being in Ray, but this would have been like early in his career.
Yeah,
or kind of truly taking off into like a good character actor. He's in Black Dynamite.
He plays Shocker #2 in Spider-Man: Homecoming. So he's officially in the MCU.
I mean, everyone's in the MCU these days.
Yeah, true.
He was even in an episode of The X-Files, talking about classic 90s and The Sopranos. The List. What episode was The List? Oh, that was a good one. One of those Monster of the Week episodes. That episode's one that had J.T. Walsh as the prison warden. I love J.T. Walsh.
Yeah, J.T. Walsh is great.
He's so 90s. And we mentioned him earlier, like David Morse. Like I think of him as like this kind of unsung character actor from the 90s.
From the 90s, yeah.
He doesn't do a whole lot of movies. Like he still does a lot of work. It's mostly like TV now. He doesn't do a lot of movies anymore.
No. I mean, he had a handful in the early to mid 2000s. And then kind of, over the last several years, he's kind of fallen off the map movie-wise.
Back to the basics of like The Rock. Like it's just, again, we've got this great cast. And it's so quintessential kind of like 90s action movie. It involves the military somehow, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then there's a car chase with lots of explosions and wrecks, and there's some sex. There's a lot of profanity. Some fits, others just come out of nowhere.
And there's Nicolas Cage.
There's Nicolas Cage.
Being Nicolas Cage.
Yes. By the way, this is also, I always claim this to be a kind of an unofficial movie in the James Bond canon.
Yes, a lot of people see that. I was going to mention that there's a huge theory out there that Sean Connery's character in this movie is James Bond after all the James Bond movies and everything. It's what happened to his character.
I saw someone earlier, they saw a picture of like Pierce Brosnan recently. Someone was like, what if they made a movie with old James Bond? Like, they already made that movie.
It's The Rock.
It was glorious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, one of the best James Bond movies ever made.
Yes.
Hands down.
Yeah. Yeah. I can totally get on the Rock as a James Bond movie train. I can totally get on that.
Anyway, so it opens and you get all these, it's Ed Harris and he's getting in his military dress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're cutting between shots of guys all shouting on the radio in the military and helicopters, and it's raining and he's at a cemetery and he's talking to his dead wife.
So before we go any farther than that, spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about this entire movie, beginning, middle, and end. So if you have not seen it and you don't want to be spoiled, pause the podcast, watch the movie, come back and listen. If you have seen the movie or you just don't mind spoilers, keep on listening. Continue, Tony.
It's very possible people have not seen The Rock.
It is possible.
We talked about Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yes.
If you're born after 1996 and you heard The Rock,
you would probably think of Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Yeah.
Anyone older might just think of you think of the movie, but also The Rock, and also think of Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how often, do younger people, the younger generation now, do they think much about Alcatraz anymore?
I would hope so. I would hope that the average young person would just be sitting, just sitting around, hanging out, and then all of a sudden, Alcatraz would pop in their head.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder how Alcatraz is doing right now.
San Francisco, it would make sense, right? Because it's still out there on the island.
Yeah. But this is back, 96 was back in a time when Alcatraz was actually, for some reason, in everybody's, regular consciousness, even without The Rock.
Exactly. It's just... Because we see, what year did the prison close? 69?
Something like that.
63.
63. Okay.
Okay. So a little over 30 years after it got shut down. But within that time, other movies, you get the Clint Eastwood Escape from Alcatraz, right? All these other things.
So that was a good movie, by the way.
Yes, it was. It's stayed within public consciousness, right? It's what other prison really does that in the same way outside of maybe certain military prisons like Guantanamo Bay, right? Maybe Leavenworth, I don't know. So, but yeah, it's kind of cutting in between, I guess, a montage. And you see Ed Harris, he's talking to his dead wife at the cemetery, and he's leaving one of his Medal of Honors there, and he's saying, I hope to get their attention, along those lines, and I hope you don't think less of me. Right, so he's planning to do something. Yeah, and this would have had Apollo 13 was probably my first Ed Harris movie. He'd been plenty of things prior to that, but I guess him being an action movie villain probably was not what most people would have in mind for Ed Harris. What I like about it, is that
he's usually if he's if there's a movie that he's in that has a hero and a villain, he's usually the hero.
Yes.
He's usually not on the other side of the law.
But they don't, what you said earlier is he's not he's a villain, but not in the same way as a couple of the other characters.
Yeah.
he gets redeemed a bit.
Yeah,
he realizes the folly of his ways, and he kind of gets redeemed.
Yeah, technically, he's a villain, but his villainy is based in trying to do what's right for his people.
Yes,
just he goes about it the wrong way.
And yeah, but it's funny. I think a lot of times, especially a lot of the 90s movies, they made it a lot more cut and dry about this person's just bad.
Yeah.
You're cheering. You can't wait to see this person get killed.
Yeah.
So,
and there are some fantastic kills in this movie.
Oh, yes. What I think is hilarious about it, we talk about the movie having a lot of profanity, but Nicolas Cage, who's one of the three leads, he just actually curse a lot in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, let's cut the chit chat a-hole.
Yeah. Let's cut the chit chat a-hole.
There's a few other things where it's you're expecting the F-bomb, and then he says something else. But then he gets the one line. He gets a good one-liner when he kills Tony Todd. But that's the end of the movie.
But how in Zeus's butthole?
That's in Zeus's butthole.
Did you get out of your cell?
I just want to find some freaking rockets. They're mother freaking Ukrainians.
Yes. Italian Job.
But that's a PG-13
That is a PG-13 movie. They were really trying to hold on to that PG-13 rating for the Italian Job.
But, they established quickly that they are going to be the villains. but that they still have a certain line because they're breaking into this facility.
They're breaking into
store chemical weapons.
They're the naval weapons facility.
It's nighttime. It's raining, of course. Right?
Yeah, it's always raining at night when they're breaking into some military facility in any 90s movie.
Yeah.
And it's not just sprinkling, it's like pouring.
No, it's pouring. It's a true rainstorm. But they use non-lethal force.
Yeah.
Right? They get in there, right? They have darts that just go ahead, they knock them out, and they say specifically, like, we have 30 minutes to do this before it wears off and they wake up.
Yeah. One guy they shoot with a beanbag and then kick him out of a tower.
He might have a broken bone.
Yeah, or two.
He's probably the most injured of all of them, but, and he'll get compensated. And then, they get to the spot where they're going to steal a chemical agent. I love the design of it, right? They lift it up. It's almost like a string of pearls just like dangling down, right?
Yeah.
But it's like these green glass balls. And then one of them falls off, and then, it rolls.
Yeah, it's weird because, so they seem like they're glass balls, right?
Yes.
But the one that breaks loose and rolls across the floor, and when it hits the wall, it's almost like it's a gel ball instead of a glass one, because it kind of crumples as it breaks.
Yes.
So it's kind of weird.
And so, they're seeing this, and they see them rush out, and then one guy doesn't make it in time, right? And David Morse's character, orders the door shut. They close it, and then...
Yeah, and we find out that these green balls that are inside these rockets that they're stealing have a nerve gas in them, because we see the effects on the guy that got trapped in the room with the broken one. Yeah.
You see his face start to melt, and then he starts to vomit up his insides, and... Yeah. Doesn't look like a pleasant way to die.
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. But yeah, it's rockets filled with VX nerve gas.
Yeah, VX is VX nerve gas. So, and then at that point, we cut into now FBI headquarters and introduced Stanley Goodspeed,
who's training so Stanley Goodspeed is the FBI chemical weapons expert.
And I guess, a quick thing on Ed Harris. He's the guys he's leaning to his Marine command, right? He's General Francis Hummel, right? And they are a bunch of Force Recon Marines.
Yeah.
So we really don't get into why they're doing this yet, but that's their background.
Yeah.
Right? But now you have Stanley Goodspeed, as you're saying.
Yeah, he's the FBI's leading chemical weapons expert, or at least in the San Francisco division.
Yes.
And
well, no, he has to fly out to San Francisco. So what I don't quite get is it seemed like I thought they showed the exterior of FBI headquarters, but then when you see him before he flies out, it looks like he's more in a big city. Well, I mean, DC is a big city.
I mean, would he have been? Could he have been maybe in the LA office?
Yeah, it's possible. So.
Anyway, he's somewhere.
Anyway, he's in the office, and someone brings in a package to him, and it's an LP of the White Album.
No, that's later.
Is that later?
Wait, no, that is. You're right. Yeah, they do bring it in first.
Why don't you just get a CD? Why did you get a CD?
Yes. He's like, well, one, because I'm a Beatlemaniac, which Nicolas Cage really is, a Beatlemaniac.
Yes.
And two, because these sound better.
Which is true. And it's funny, looking back at that, they're almost 30 years ago. LPs are very niche at that point. There's serious enthusiasts that still want to have the LPs.
Yeah, and and
then slowly over time, as everything went digital, LPs then started selling CDs, and people now actually still want LPs of certain things. It's a big deal. So.
And the reason he had it delivered to his office instead of home is because Carla, his girlfriend, wouldn't approve of him spending $600 on an LP.
They're not married yet.
No, they're not married yet.
But I get he's an FBI agent, so I mean he's just a regular agent. He's not high in the command, so his salary is that of a government employee.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, so then someone comes in. They found a package, right? They said it's for Ukrainian refugees or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, so he goes in to check it out, and he's training the new recruit, the new chemical weapons guy.
They get into down in the basement. Team. They get into a little clean room area, right? Where and they're in their suits trying to open up, and they're concerned,
that they're sarin gas
might just be rigged with explosives.
Yeah,
right.
They're concerned that there might be sarin gas in this box. In this crate.
That's what it was. Thank you. Yeah.
So they're very carefully opening up the crate, and they're in a containment unit.
Yep.
And so they're all suited up. They're in there. They open up the crate. They start pulling out a couple of items that are in there very carefully.
They bring in a cage of crickets also.
Yeah. Cockroaches.
Cockroaches.
They bring in a jar of cockroaches because that's how they can tell because if it's a gas, it's going to kill the cockroaches too. So if the cockroaches start dying, exactly.
The old canary in the coal mine.
Exactly. So they take in a jar of cockroaches with them, and they're opening up the crate, going through the stuff, and the trainee.
There's a baby doll.
The trainee sees a baby doll in there, picks it up, and starts playing with it,
Hi, Stanley!
Making it start waving at Stanley, and as he's moving the arm, the eyes open up, and gas starts shooting out of its mouth because the guy's an idiot. As soon as he picked the thing up, Stanley starts yelling at him, like, put that down, do not play with it. And he starts playing with it and gasses them both.
Yeah. It's established throughout the movie that Stanley is the smartest of the FBI people we encounter.
Yes.
Now, some of the other lab people that are there are probably smart.
Pretty big margin.
But they make a pretty big deal out of how the field agents and the higher ups, the FBI, are not the most educated or intelligent people.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
so they're get gas. So they start ventilating the containment unit. They're trying to get the gas out of there. The cockroaches start exploding, and they find out.
He also has there's explosives in it too. So
yeah, and they find out pretty quick.
C4.
Yeah, they find out pretty quick that the gas is corrosive and it's starting to eat through their suits.
Yeah,
and the timer starts up for the bomb that's in there. And so there's a little box on the wall of the unit that has these syringes that they're supposed to inject themselves with to counteract any nerve gas.
Yes. And they're trying to instruct the recruit that he has to do it into his heart.
Yeah, that he has to shove it into his heart and inject himself.
You want me to shove this into my heart? Or are you fucking nuts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, lots of profanity.
Meanwhile, while this guy's complaining about shoving the needle into his heart, Stanley Goodspeed is there trying to defuse the bomb.
Which apparently he's also a bomb expert.
I guess, yeah. Because he's able to tell right away that if I cut this wire, it's going to blow. This is a dummy wire, so I got to go and...
He also knows, exactly, it's like, oh yeah, there's enough C4 here to level the building.
Yeah.
So, and you got one of the other guys who might be the lead of the lab down there, right? You say, all right, we're going to seal off the room and order evacuation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there's like the two of them in there and like these 3 or 4 other guys that are anxiously waiting to see what's going to happen.
But, other than knowing about the navigational chips in the rockets later, they really don't touch on his expertise with bombs in the rest of the movie.
They don't. So, but they're also begging him to take the shot too, because the whole thing is like, if he dies from the gas first... Yeah, he can't defuse the bomb.
And they're screwed. But he refuses to inject himself with that thing. Like the recruit, the new hire tries to hand him one. He's like, "Get that away from me!"
He defuses it just in time.
Yeah, he defuses it just in time. There's like a second left. In typical movie fashion,
it's always 1 second,
unless it's a James Bond movie. So this is the one. Okay, so this is one moment where there's a strike against it being a Bond movie. Because if it was a Bond movie, it would stop at 007.
Yeah. Unless Nicolas Cage is done.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they get out, they go home. Nicolas Cage is in his flat. He's in his boxers. He's got his guitar. He's playing the White Album.
Is he in his boxers or is he naked?
I think he's in his boxers.
Okay.
I thought
his guitar is blocking anything from like the waist down.
I thought I remember seeing a little bit of like white boxers. And,
okay.
I mean, I would.
It would make more sense for him to be wearing his boxers, but
he's got huge open windows, so
yeah.
Who knows? Anyway, he's there playing, and then his girlfriend walks in, right, and. They kind of like talk about, oh yeah, we've had these days, right?
Yeah, she's like, "Why are you home?"
Like,
and he's like, "Well,
yeah, that's right." She's wondering why he's home. Like, "Oh yeah, I thought I would take the day off early after almost, being killed by nerve gas and blowing up."
Yeah, he's like, "No, nerve gas and a bomb," and so I figured I'd take the rest of the day off.
He's like, to anyone that thinks about bringing a kid into this world is absolutely crazy. And then you find out that
I have news for you. I'm pregnant. And he's like, what? And his jaw drops a little bit, and he's like, what? He starts speaking kind of positively about her being pregnant, and then she's like,
it's like, yeah, well,
come on, you just told me. Yeah, took it. How do you know? Like, how do you know you're pregnant? I took a test. It's blue, and so I went to the doctor, and he's like, this is great news. Like, she's like, well, but you just said that this is a terrible time to bring a baby in the world like 7 seconds ago. He's like, well, a lot's happened in 7 seconds. Which, right back to a point for it being a Bond movie, 7 seconds.
Yes.
007 seconds.
They're being tricky. And so, anyway, it's like, well, wow. And it cuts away, and then we get back to Hummel, right? And now they're in San Francisco, and they got these helicopters, and they arrive at, I guess the helicopters don't arrive at Alcatraz yet. We're in San Francisco. We go to Alcatraz Island, and he's there. David Morse is there, and a few other guys, and they're doing just a regular tour of Alcatraz.
Yeah, they're just
tourists
in line with people waiting to get in on a tour. And there's this group of kids. There's a school group.
Even a point for him being not a monster, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Like there's
a school field trip with a field trip there. And so he goes up to one of the kids and he kneels down. He's like, "Hey, I want you to go tell your teacher, get your whole class back on the bus and go back to the mainland."
Yeah.
Because he knows what's going to happen. He knows what's about to happen.
He doesn't want to traumatize those kids.
Yeah.
Which is also a point that later that a lot of what they're doing might just be a bluff.
Yeah.
So they're there, and then eventually, we get Ranger Bob.
Yeah, Ranger Bob.
Ranger Bob.
Yeah, Park Ranger Bob, played by Raymond O'Connor, he's another one of those great character actors from the 90s especially. But yeah, it's always good to see him and stuff. He always plays smaller roles.
Yeah. I was like, you will become... what?
You're going to be inmates.
Citizens of Alcatraz. Yeah, temporarily.
You're going to be inmates of Alcatraz. Temporarily, of course. He gets all the cell doors to open, and then he tells everybody to get in there, and then he shuts the cells, and then starts talking. Ed Harris and a couple of his guys come walking up behind him and tell him to get in a cell.
It's like, tour's over, Bob.
Yeah, tour's over, Bob.
And that's when you start seeing the other helicopters come in as they're getting reinforcements to help them. One of the other guys I forgot that was in this is Steve Harris, who was on the TV drama The Practice.
Yeah.
That came out later in the 90s. And I think one of the other guys, I forgot about this, Technician Launer. Xander Berkeley is one of the FBI technicians.
Yes, he is. Yeah, every time I watch this movie, I forget that Xander Berkeley's in it because he's got such a small part.
And it's fun. Xander Berkeley is one of those guys that either has a prominent supporting role or he has a really brief role in the movie.
Yeah.
And I like it because his name is Xander. There's not many Xanders out there.
No, there's not.
And then, we get several scenes of the tourist. And this is, again, we get into just random 90s action movie profanity.
Yes.
What kind of fucked up tour is this?
Why don't you use a gun? And Bob's like, I don't have a gun. Like, you don't have a gun? I have a gun.
Both of them. That guy and that lady. Thumbs up. Don't know where they got them from. They were just extras that got to drop bombs in the rock. But well done.
Yep.
And then we meet Captain Darrow and Sergeant Crisp, Tony Todd, and we said the Bokeem Woodbine, and then what was his name again?
Yeah, so they're
all Captain Fry.
Yeah, so basically Hummel is in one of the rooms, in one of their staging areas, briefing his team, and he's given his background with various people in the group. How, he worked with, he's been with Major Baxter, played by David Morse, for years. He served under him, or Baxter served under Hummel. And then, the same thing with Captain Hendricks, John C. McGinley. They had spent a couple tours together, but he had never worked with Fry or Darrow before.
Right. And then he talks about how the reputation.
Yeah, but your reputation precedes you. You've lived up your reputation.
I love how they're both like, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
very serious military men, right?
Yes.
Not that serious, considering they're really more, psychopaths. But
yeah, very much so. Especially Tony Todd.
Nicolas Cage kind of gets them pegged down later in the movie when he's in the cell. But anyway, and then that's when they go ahead and they phone in their demands.
Yeah.
And the entire idea is, Oh,
and also it's established that each member of Hummel's team, at the end of, once their demands are met and everything, and they're done with this mission.
That's right.
Each member of the team is going to be paid $1 million.
Right.
And they're going to have to leave American soil and never set foot on it again.
Yeah, because it's treason.
Yeah, because what they're doing is treason.
And he goes into it now, not when he's talking with the government later. Is that he's talking about how, because he led people into covert operations.
Yeah.
And those, when they died, their family members never were told about the actual manner of their death.
Because it was covert.
Nor did they receive the proper compensation.
Yeah. And so, he explains to his people that, what they're doing according to the law is treason. But there was a time when these men named Washington and Jefferson and Adams were committing treason, and now they're known as patriots.
And, he has a point to be angry with. It's like, it's the point that he's angry about. You're very sympathetic. It's
a very valid point that he's trying to make.
So anyway, then, he makes the call in, to demand it. And the idea is, they're going to, if they don't meet the demand, he's going to shoot rockets with this gas into San Francisco, right? Because, for those that don't know about Alcatraz, it's an island in San Francisco Bay that had a maximum security prison. And so he's going to use that staging area to shoot the rockets from the island to the main part of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Not Oakland.
And Alcatraz is about the only prison that has never had an actual recorded successful escape.
Successful, yes.
There have been many escape attempts, but nobody that they know of has survived those attempts.
But it was well secured, and then you got to swim across the bay, and San Francisco Bay is kind of a tricky water to navigate.
Yeah, weird currents and freezing temperatures and all of that.
Even for experienced swimmers, it's a big deal. When they do triathlons out there, because they're going to do it at night, they're not going to do it during the day.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
If you're going to try to escape. So he makes a call in, and then that's when the FBI director, played by John Spencer, James Romack, gets a call. He's about to go out for a nice, probably the Kennedy Center or the Warner Theater.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a tux. He's ready to go out for an evening at some event.
Something that high, influential people in D.C. do. And I think it's more of the arts than some type of political event. But anyway, and he's like, cancel my evening. Seems like Alcatraz just reopened.
Yeah.
Right. Again, 51-liners, right?
Yeah. So
then we cut back.
Yeah. So Hummel gives his demands, or do we go back to?
No, we don't yet. Now there's a whole meeting. You have some of the Joint Chiefs.
Yeah, Joint Chiefs, and there
you got the FBI director. You have the Supreme Court Chief Justice for some reason there, played by Philip Baker Hall.
Yeah. I don't know.
But you have Stuart Wilson, right? What you mentioned earlier, he's a Marine general, right? That high up in the Pentagon somehow, right? Oh no, he's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. That's who he is. That's his role, right? You have the White House Chief of Staff there, right? David Marshall Grant. He's there speaking for the president, essentially, right?
Yep.
And, a bunch of other people. I love when David Marshall Grant, he's looking through Hummel's accolades. He's going through. He's and then the Congressional Medal of Jesus.
Yeah.
I never realized there was
the Congressional Medal of Jesus. I'm pretty sure it's the Congressional Medal of Honor.
And he's like, well, I guess we can add war criminal to that. It's first he's first he's like, this man is a hero. And then that's when Sue was like more like a legend. It's because he's not a hero anymore.
Yeah.
And then that's where he kind of talks about how I was like, well, I guess we can add treason. And then Stuart Wilson's like, he's a man of honor.
Yeah, so Hummel calls him up, and he's giving him his list of demands. Basically, he explains to them that these people that were on my team during these covert ops that were killed in action, their families were never compensated for it. So take these millions of dollars out of this secret account. So not even from the regular taxpayer money that goes into running the country. It's these secret accounts that the government keeps.
And then it's funny, like the Pentagon people know about it, but then the FBI director's like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Like, take these, however many millions of dollars out of this account and send $1 million to each of these families. The rest of the funds, I will disperse at my discretion.
Which is to his men.
Yeah, which is to his men.
And I like how he's talking about a lot of these covert ops. Like, again, this is 1996. So his career goes back to Vietnam. And he's like, oh, we took people into China. And then, the chief of staff is like, we've never admitted that we sent men into China. And he's like, and I just starts chastising him. It's like making fun of him. It's like, I was doing tours before you're even a twinkle in your dad's eye. Yeah. So then he gets off, and so that's when we kind of get back to, like, they realize they're going to have to get a special ops team to Alcatraz. And then, he cut back to Goodspeed, and he's on the roof of his flat.
Yeah, on the roof of his apartment building, making sweet, sweet love to his girlfriend, who, now that she's pregnant, he didn't have to worry about getting her pregnant again.
And then the phone rings. He's like, I got to take this. It's the office. She's like, no, you don't. And then she talks about, he's like, I'm Catholic and unmarried. This is a problem. Like, this is 1990s. It's not a problem.
Yeah, because she had, after she told him that she was pregnant, then she asked him to marry her, and he never gave her an answer.
And then he decides, like, okay, we got to go to San Francisco. It's like, this is probably just some type of training exercise. How about you come to San Francisco with me later? But
yeah, she's like, I'm Catholic and unmarried and I'm pregnant. What are we going to do? And he's like, don't worry, I'll marry you. Everything will be okay. But yeah, so he's like, I got to go to San Francisco. Why don't you come with me? And
then we kind of cut back to, like, the Pentagon, where they're talking about this again, right? Now Michael Biehn is there, and he leads a SEAL team, right? And, they already had taken pictures, kind of determined where hostages are, where Hummel's team is, and formulating, like, a plan of, like, what to do.
Yeah.
About the situation, and they ultimately decide the best thing to do is to try to break into Alcatraz, but then they're like, well, no one's ever broken out. How's someone going to, like, break into Alcatraz, right? And then they realize, like, oh, no, it's like an Independence Day. That's not entirely true.
Entirely accurate. Womack knows something the rest of the people don't know for once.
Yes. The whole thing, it was such a thing. I'd be like, that's need to know information, and you don't need to know.
Yeah.
But it's classified. But yeah, Womack, and then they never really Philip Baker Hall, the Chief Justice, both know about a particular prisoner that doesn't have a name and is unknown to everybody, essentially, except whoever's guarding him. But, like, they don't know anything about him.
Nope. But he does have a name. His name is John Mason.
His name is John Mason, and he's British. He's Scottish.
He was born in Glasgow. But yeah, so he was a former SAS, and basically his background for this movie is essentially James Bond.
Yeah. He's former SAS, but then he ends up being like an MI6 operative.
Yeah, working for MI6, and yeah.
We don't get the full details yet, and we don't know why he's in prison. And Womack really seems to hate him.
Well, no, he does. Womack does explain that the secret microfilm that contains
that's true.
The secrets, like stuff about the Watergate scandal and stuff about and the truth about the Kennedy assassination and stuff like that is all on this microfilm that the president had in his office, and Mason is the one that stole that microfilm.
Yep. They caught him, and they put him in Alcatraz, and then he escaped.
Yeah.
And they caught him, and then, they sent him to some other prison.
That he didn't escape from.
But, they never found the microfilm.
Yeah. They never found the microfilm.
Which is why he's still alive, and why they're not going to release him, because they don't want him releasing any of that information.
Yeah.
So you look at it, it's like, okay, well, he can't be that bad of a dude. I mean, I get that he was a spy, and he stole U.S. property, but...
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, the camera cuts to him, and he's They're escorting him out of his cell. It's Sean Connery. He's got long hair. They take him to the interrogation room.
Thing.
And William Forsythe, Special Agent Paxton, is in there starting to interrogate him, but he doesn't want to talk.
Well, yeah. I mean, that comes up because at this point they release him from prison. Nicolas Cage, he meets FBI director. They have it on a private plane. Right? He's asking about the VX nerve gas, and he says, "It's one of those things we wish that we could disinvent." And he realizes that it's no longer like a training exercise, right? So he flies out to San Francisco, and then and they meet William Forsythe out there.
Yeah, so I guess he would have been,
Paxton.
Goodspeed would have been in D.C. then, because that's where Womack was at the time.
Good point. I'm glad we put that together.
Yeah.
So
I suppose he could have been like in New York or something, like a couple hours drive from D.C., but...
Yeah, him in New York, Billy. Probably New York and D.C. would probably make more sense if he was East Coast.
Yeah.
In terms of what
somewhere
happened
within driving distance of D.C., but...
So they fly out, and that's when they meet Agent Paxton in San Francisco, and they're there at the field office there. And Paxton is the first one to start interrogating Sean Connery, right? And he's not getting really any information from Womack about him or what he did, right? So he's just kind of treating him like any other criminal.
Yeah. So it's not working with Paxton in there, so they decide to send in Goodspeed.
Well,
has no experience with interrogations.
He flips a quarter, right?
Oh yeah.
He's like, call your lawyer.
Yeah, he flips him a quarter. He's like, call your lawyer. The quarter falls on the floor next to his chair, next to Mason's chair, and it just sits there.
And meanwhile, on the other side of the glass, you have Goodspeed there with Womack, and he's kind of listening to what is being said by Mason. He's kind of repeating, and you see him thinking, and then Womack's like, why are you repeating what he's saying? Right. And then they decide to send Goodspeed in there, and he's like...
and he's all uncomfortable because he's never interrogated somebody before.
I don't have training for that. And like, what's your specialty? He's like, chemical agents.
Yeah.
He gets in, like...
He's like... He's
really like, hi.
I'm with the federal. Goodspeed. I'm with the Federal Bureau of. I'm Stanley Goodspeed.
So
of course you are. So you are.
And you have a situation. He's like, offer to uncuff me.
He's like,
a gesture of goodwill.
No, first he asked for coffee.
Like, no. Yes.
Yeah. First he's like, yeah.
So, he's trying to work him in through like the good cop routine.
Yeah. So he's like, right? So he goes to sit down, and Mason's like, coffee. He's like, no thanks, I'm not thirsty. He's like, no, offer me coffee.
It's like the whole bad cop, good cop thing, right? Paxton was the bad cop. Good cop comes in. It's like,
hey, can we get a cup of coffee here for Mr. Mason? And he's like, no, I'll take off my handcuffs. That's a show of good faith. Like, can we get these cuffs off of him?
And then they keep talking, and then Stanley Goodspeed says something about, like, Archimedes or something like that. It's like, oh, you're an educated man.
No, so he starts speaking.
Oh, yeah. No.
Latin, or is it Greek that he's saying? Because it's I fear the Greeks even when
Greek, and fear the gods,
and I fear the Greeks even when they bear gifts, when they're bearing gifts.
Yeah,
and Goodspeed translates it
because they're offering him a pardon for his information about Alcatraz.
Yeah. So he's got So Stanley's got a document in there with him that Womack's in there with that. It's an agreement to a pardon if he gives them good information about Alcatraz.
And then, it's like about the Greeks, and even when they're offering gifts, right? So, whole Trojan horse.
Yeah.
But Goodspeed just, translates it, and Mason deciphers that he's an educated guy.
Yeah.
He's not a field agent.
Yeah. So,
I am a field agent. he looks at the glass. Not a poker player, though.
No. So,
but then he wants to go with the pardon. He wants a room at the Fairmont.
Yes, he wants a room at the Fairmont. He wants a suite. He wants a suite. At the Fairmont, and then Goodspeed's like, "Well, can I suggest a haircut too?"
It's not in style.
He's like,
unless you're a rocker from Seattle.
He's like, unless you're a rocker from Seattle. It's a grunge thing. Grunge.
Which is the funny thing about this, like that's the line you could like kind of date it, but like it actually dates it in the right way.
Yeah, it does.
Because it's like it's timeless about it. Anyway.
Yeah. So Goodspeed leaves Mason in the room and goes back over to Womack. Meanwhile, Mason, as soon as Goodspeed leaves, he sort of picks up his chair and slams the leg of his chair down onto the quarter.
On the quarter.
That Paxton had flipped to him earlier. And it ended up crushing the edge of the quarter into a sort of sharp edge there. And so Stanley goes back over to the other side of the two-way mirror and is talking to Womack, gives him the document that Mason had signed, and Womack tears it up.
Tears it up. And then
tears up the pardon.
He's like, isn't that a federal document? And then the line's like, you're on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know.
Yeah.
Like because that's like, well, what exactly did he do? And he's like, well, I'm only curious because all these names he dropped when Paxton was in the room, they were all wrongfully accused.
Yeah.
They were falsely imprisoned.
Yeah.
Right. And then they look over and they see
Mason's standing up, and he's got the quarter in his hand, and he's like carving a circle into the mirror, and then he hits it and shatters the glass, and looks through and sees Womack. Womack!
I might have known. And the guards come in and they subdue him, but they still bring him in the Fairmont.
They still give him a suite at the Fairmont, and so he's in the shower getting cleaned up. Playing music real loud and singing along with it.
Tony Bennett or
and so there's a phone right next to the shower that he reaches over there and calls room service and has them bring up a feast.
Yep.
There's just a smorgasbord of all different kinds of foods.
Then he gets the little rope that you can pull out. A nice posh hotels, help dry your clothes, right?
Yeah, he pulls that out and sort of wraps it up while he's in the shower, and then
meanwhile he's also singing the song.
Yeah.
He's like, right, see some gentle people there. And then the stylist comes up.
Yeah, the stylist. So he comes in and he's like, are you the barber? Stylist.
And he's got the scissors, like, you can't have these.
Yeah.
Like, would you tell Picasso?
Yeah. Would you tell, how am I supposed to cut his hair with just clippers? Would you tell Picasso no brush?
It's so stereotypical. It's like San Francisco.
And then Connery goes walking up behind him. He's like, yes, because I can't cut his balls off with clippers.
I would love to see a movie where you just have like Bond cutting its balls off with clippers.
And Connery's in a suit and everything. He's looking real good, long hair. And
they're out there on the balcony. He's like, who did this to you?
And he's like, it's a grunge thing.
It's some kind of thing.
It's some kind of thing. So meanwhile, he's got the cape on, the haircutting cape and stuff on there. So underneath it,
all the other like FBI agents, they're somewhere there in the suite.
Yeah.
And all the food that's there now, they're just gorging themselves on.
Yeah. So Womack and Goodspeed are out on the balcony with them.
Yes.
And everybody else is inside just feasting.
And there's one guy's like, why are you eating all this? Like, oh, he's an old man. What's he going to do?
It's free.
That's right.
So, yeah. Meanwhile, the camera shows underneath the haircutting cover, and you see Mason pulling out that rope.
Yep.
He's sort of wrapping it around his hand, and then the stylist finishes with the haircut.
He's still out there on the balcony.
Yeah.
They kind of talk about the pardon, and then he goes to shake Womack's hand. They kind of shake, and
when he goes to shake it,
he
loops the rope around his wrist and tosses him off the side of the building. And he's just holding onto the other end of the rope, and Womack's dangling off the balcony.
We missed a point earlier in the movie where Goodspeed does not have a sidearm.
Yes, Goodspeed does not. One. Yes, that's right. Because when they got there, he's like, "Sir, I'm going to need a gun." He's like, "What happened to your gun?" "It's in my sock drawer."
Because he thought it was a training exercise.
Yeah. So Womack gets one of those guys to give him a gun.
And it's like, have you ever fired one of those since the academy?
Yeah, so as soon as Womack gets tossed over the side, then, Goodspeed draws the gun that he was given, and Mason's like, you shoot me, he drops. You shoot me, he falls. So he, real quick, wraps the end of the rope around the chair that's on the balcony and runs. So the chair is able to hold Womack up there just long enough.
The stylist is still there.
Yeah, stylist.
He's got his hands up. And he's like, he's looking.
Yeah. The chair holds Womack just long enough for Goodspeed to run over there and grab the rope. Meanwhile, Mason is running out of there, and then the stylist goes running out of there, and a couple of the agents are chasing Mason while the others are trying to help get Womack up. And Mason makes it to the elevator, and opens it up, and the stylist is cowering in the corner of the elevator. And he's like, I did not just see you throw that man off the roof. All I care about is, are you happy with your haircut?
The chase continues through the hotel. They end up in the kitchen. I love how there's a giant Samoan chef lying cook.
Mm-hmm.
They get through. There's a mess. And, they finally get back out to the lobby. There's some dude there. He's leaving instructions about his Humvee.
Yeah. This is my Humvee. I don't want to scratch on it.
This is like back when, not many citizens.
Yeah, this is back when pretty much Arnold Schwarzenegger was the only one who owned a Humvee.
Yeah. Hummer really wasn't a thing yet.
No.
So he goes off, and then as Goodspeed's getting out, some valet is coming up with a Porsche.
No, it's a Ferrari. With a yellow Ferrari.
Yes, the Ferrari.
Yeah, so Mason steals the Humvee. Ferrari. So Mason jumps in the Humvee, drives away, and Goodspeed gets somebody's Ferrari and is chasing him. So they've got a high-speed chase going on down the streets of San Francisco, which... I love that. If you've never been to San Francisco, it's very narrow streets, very
some hilly
curvy streets, curvy. It's very difficult to have a high speed chase in San Francisco.
Great callback to Steve McQueen's Bullet.
Yes, very much so.
And it's funny, it was a great period. The 60s and 70s had really good car chases in movies, and then the 90s kind of reinvigorated that a bit, and the early 2000s really. And The Rock, The Italian Job, Ronin, the Bourne movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is such a great example of it. And like you were saying, it's narrow, small streets, and there's hills, there's curves. San Francisco is an odd city.
Mason's basically hitting everything that's in his way. He's just plowing through everything because he's in a Hummer.
Calls him on the
car phone.
He's like, I'm only borrowing your Humvee. Which is a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
He just needs to get away.
He's not going to keep it. But
No, but then he makes a phone call
Then he makes a phone call while he's driving to Jade.
Then, Goodspeed, he makes a phone call
too. Jade Angelou.
Yes. So he makes a phone call too back to his office.
Yeah.
And he's talking to the trainee there. He's like, I need to know about next of kin. And there's no.
Yeah, and he's talking to the trainee that was the guy that he was training before.
Yes.
He's not all suited
up. And
he said
he's going to quit.
Yeah. He's like, I'm out of here. But he looks up. He tries to look up Mason.
No record, which is what you would expect.
No record. All he could find is that he's born in Glasgow, and that's it. And then his next of kin is a Jade Angelou.
Well, the way they get to that is I need to know about some prisoner that got transferred to San Quentin.
Yeah,
is where he got transferred, right?
Yeah,
and so that's what actually produces this result, right? This
no name,
phantom prisoner,
just that he was born in Glasgow. His next of kin is a woman named Jade Angelou,
who happens to live in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So it's all very neat in that direction.
It's the 90s.
It's the 90s.
It's a 90s action movie.
So they're going through, and finally, how's it that who clips it? Then all of a sudden, one of the big
trolley
things to do in San Francisco is to ride a trolley.
Yes. So you have the trolley driven by this big black guy that's all happy. He's like all like you could tell he loves his job. He loves picking up these people and transporting them around San Francisco. He's just living life and loving it. It's not rice-a-roni. He is the San Francisco treat.
Oh my. That's hilarious.
But no, you could tell that, he loves his job. He loves interacting with these people that ride his trolley every day. He keeps in touch with a lot of them, too. You can just tell.
Yeah.
But during this chase, Mason bumps into the trolley.
Yeah. And I guess the cops have been kind of involved in this, too. But then, Goodspeed, he kind of cuts off into a different direction to try to cut it off, right? But yeah, Mason kind of...
he nudges the trolley, and it knocks it off the track. Shit. Because these trolleys run on like a train track that goes down the middle of the road. And so he knocks it off the track. So it's kind of just sliding down the road. He doesn't really have any brakes because it's not on his track. No. So he can't stop the thing.
Going down a hill.
It's going down a hill. It's approaching some cars. The guy's just freaking out.
Save yourself!
He's like, save yourselves!
People jumping off the... it's going out and
real dramatic.
It's going down the hill. At the bottom of the hill, that's where Goodspeed's trying to cut off Mason. He's trying to wait, and then all of a sudden the trolley comes straight towards him.
Yeah. So he gets out of the car, the trolley slams into the car, just destroys the Ferrari. Just destroys the Ferrari. Then the guy...
Hippie dude.
No. After the trolley crashes, then you see the trolley driver get out of the trolley, and he walks up. He walks around like
takes off his hat.
Takes off his hat, and throws it down like, "Who did this? I will kill you! I'll kill the man that did
this." That's when he get.
Yeah.
He looks up. That's always like the classic kind of like Michael Bay shot.
Yeah.
Right? It's like this upward turning shot.
Yeah.
It's Nicolas Cage. And there's this guy in his little moped. And he looks at Nicolas.
It's a dirt bike.
Dude.
I think it's a dirt. Is it a moped or is it a dirt bike?
Oh, moped or a dirt bike. Yeah.
Either way, the guy comes rolling up to him.
Dude, he just fucked up your Ferrari.
Nicolas Cage is like, it's not mine.
He's just laughing. He's like, this is neither.
Neither is this. And pushes him off the bike, and he takes it. Meanwhile, we get an exterior shot of Jade's house, or where you see Claire Forlani get out of her house with her friend. We don't know necessarily that's Jade, but so they go walking away, and then
we all know which one is who at that point, really.
Yeah.
And then,
we see Claire Forlani and a blonde girl.
It is a dirt bike because Nicolas Cage pulls up on the exterior because he actually calls
Claire Forlani and Celeste Weaver
he calls it a dirt bike. That's right, because he's riding it, and that's when he's talking, and that's when he gets the information, and then he shows up there, and then he follows them, and then they go to basically it's the Palace of the Fine Arts in San Francisco.
Yeah. So Mason's sitting there on a bench, and Claire Forlani and Celeste Weaver, Jade and Stacy come walking up, and Sean Connery stands up and he's like, Jade? And Stacy's like, no, Stacy, I'm her friend.
Because he hasn't seen her in years.
Yeah.
He's been in jail.
Yeah. And so then it's revealed, now they get to talking, and it's revealed that Jade is his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That he had a fling with her mother, and then...
One night stand after a concert.
Yeah, one night stand after a concert, and
what
then
concert
he was...
it?
I don't remember. But yeah, so basically they had a one-night stand after a concert, and he was never in the picture because he got himself locked up.
Well, I mean,
it's not that he didn't want to be in the picture. It's that, he was in prison.
It's like he actually wanted to be involved.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a one-night stand, but then kind of stay involved with things until they found him again and put him in prison.
Yeah. So, they're talking, and then all the cop cars come out. You get these sirens coming, and right when he's starting to gain her trust a little bit, then meanwhile Goodspeed is sort of sitting behind a bush, just monitoring the whole situation, kind of listening in. And so all these cop cars come up, and Jade's like, "Is this for you?" And he sort of starts to look a little bit distraught, and like, Yes. Like, you broke out again, didn't you? And before she can storm off, then Goodspeed comes around and it's like, there you are, John. We been looking all over for you. Stanley Goodspeed, the FBI. Your father's working with us.
Is this true? It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the guns are drawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mason thanks him, like, you have to do that.
Like,
and he's like,
thank you for that.
Cut the chit chat.
Cut the chit chat, a-hole.
And so they're finally back. I guess San Francisco FBI headquarters, right? And, and they're going through things, and Michael Biehn is there now, and he's trying to get.
Yeah, he's the leader of the SEAL team that they're taking with them to Alcatraz.
And like they had the blueprints, and Mason's just kind of looking over them, and it's like, I don't know. He's like, it was like, did he break out of this place? Like, my blueprint was in my head.
Yeah,
it's like. I won't know to get back down there. And they're thinking he's just going to provide information.
They're
be part of
they're
actual,
not. Their whole intention of getting him out of prison was so that he'd give them information and then they can go and do
intelligence.
It. Yeah.
And then so they finally agreed to let him. And then this time Goodspeed still doesn't think he's going.
Yeah. Goodspeed thinks he's just going to train the SEALs on how to deal with the rockets.
Train them how to defuse it and and find them. And then Michael Baine's like, no, you're coming with us. And then, one of the other guys, is like, asked to talk about things like, no, this is like, have you ever done anything like this? Like, well, define it, It's like, he goes to the whole thing. He's like, oh, well, no. And he's like, excuse me. And he goes to the bathroom and he throws up, right? Yeah. And Paxton comes in. It's like, you've been trained. You can do this, right? But he's also nervous because he, his girlfriend.
Yeah, because he just learned the entire story, like what's going on and how these rockets are aimed at San Francisco.
Doesn't want his fiance there and unborn child.
Yeah. So Paxton's like, okay, well, tell you what, we'll go pick her up. We'll bring her back here to the command center and she'll be safe with us. But there's one point where I guess it's later in the movie when the guy's asking about the VX gas and what one of these rockets could do, like how many people it could kill, and he's like 60 or 70. He's like, oh, that's not bad. 1,000. Yeah, that's later. But
yeah, exactly. That's the whole thing. Like, if it actually gets dispersed in the atmosphere, it becomes far deadlier than you're in a room with that one.
Explodes on the ground.
Because anyway, because the idea is that it's going to explode in the air with the rocket. And then disperse over a wider area. Yeah.
Because the wind will pick it up and carry it, and because it's a gas. And
anyway, so.
Yeah, so they get all suited up. And they
start the mission, they all get all suited up. And I love how, what I'm talking about, it's like, if you get exposed, you got to inject yourself in the heart with the.
Yeah. And also, it's established here that Goodspeed is not the greatest swimmer. So they've got these little submersible vehicles and all that. It's that they're, some of the team is going down on those. Some are just swimming.
Meanwhile, you have Goodspeed who can't really swim going with an MI6 operative and SEALs.
Yeah.
Who some of the best swimmers on the planet.
Yeah. SEALs who really do know how to swim.
Anyway,
so they get there. They come up through the underground.
They come through an old
area of
pipe. And they kind of come up in some area there, and it's like a little incinerator. And they're not supposed to let
the one guy, the one SEAL is supposed to have Mason in his sight at all times. But they get in there, the door's locked. They're like, "How are we supposed to get through here? You let us into a trap."
And he's looking through this.
Meanwhile, Mason is kneeling down and he's looking into this incinerator. You just see these bursts of flame coming out.
That he can kind of get through.
And it's like, how are we supposed to get through there? How are we supposed to get out of this room? He's like, through there. And then that's when the guy's like, Commander, I know you told me not to let Mason out of my sight, but the Commander Anderson, Michael Biehn, is like, just stay here.
Can't you do this?
Stay here.
I remember the timing. It's in my head.
Yeah.
I just hope it hasn't changed.
I just hope it hasn't changed.
Which, given that it's not really, outside being a tourist attraction, it's not super awkward.
So it would make sense for them.
It could have easily changed. Anyway, then they think he's gone off. Oh yeah, he screwed us. And then
because he goes down there. He's like rolling through, waiting for the flames to go. And there's also these little gears that are coming down there too.
This guy.
Yeah, and they think that they see him kind of disappear in there, and then it's a little while, and he hasn't come back, and so they're thinking that he just ditched them. And then the door opens, and he's standing there.
They queued up for TV spots. And
welcome to the Rock. It's like,
and they get through. So meanwhile, Hummel's team, they recognize some cops are coming in and other things going on, and so they're kind of definitely on notice. And they've set up other kind of like booby traps and other surveillance equipment to know if anyone's trying to come in to counteract them, right?
Yeah.
So they're staying on guard about a lot of different things.
Yeah, so they've got the motion sensors, and they have a secondary sensor that is very, very unknown in the surveillance world.
Yes.
So they had that all set up, and so the SEALs make it under the shower room, and they stick their little fiber optic camera up there and looking around, and they see the motion sensors. They're like, okay, we see the motion sensors, and then there's this other little thing, this little ball thing, and we're gonna move this out of the way, and then we can get out here and not trip any of the sensors. Well, that little ball thing is that secondary sensor, and so once they nudge that, then alarms go off, and
I really hate this because now they're in a shower room and they're in a trap.
Yeah.
And all the SEALs I hate because I love Michael Biehn.
So
why do all the SEAls have to die?
All the SEAls except the one that is supposed to stay with Mason. So
yes.
Goodspeed, Mason,
Fabio,
and this other SEAL.
Titanic.
Yeah. So Mason, Goodspeed, and this other SEAL are still down in the tunnel while everybody else climbs up into the shower room. And then there's an upper level to the shower room, kind of a balcony kind of thing. So I guess the guard post or something like that.
Probably
I would imagine.
The guards are kind of keeping track of prisoners. Yeah.
So Hummel's guys all come up into that area and they're surrounding them. So basically all the SEAls are in a kill box. So they're talking, arguing with each other, trying to get each other to stand down, and Hummel is trying to get Anderson, Michael Biehn, to surrender because he doesn't want bloodshed. He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to kill his own team. Basically, he doesn't want to kill American sailors.
And then Anderson's trying to plead to Hummel's men about this is not the way to go about it, and he talks about we've all had people that all known friends have been shat on and forgotten.
Yeah, Anderson's like, I completely agree with you about your dead team members.
He brings up the point. It's I took an oath to protect against enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yeah, and so did you.
Yeah, and and finally, some of the other itchy trigger fingers that just want to get
somebody knocks a rock off of the ledge, and it falls and it hits the floor of the shower room.
Captain Fry, you hear him say "Let's waste these fuckers."
Yeah,
that's what he wants to do.
Yeah,
he just wants.
That's what he wants to do. He wants to.
Someone else knocks it off, and then one of the SEAls reacts to that.
Yeah, so because when that rock hits the floor, it sounds like a gunshot. So one of the SEAls thinks that somebody just fired at him, so he starts firing. And then that's when everybody on the little balcony area just unloads on it, just completely just wipes out the entire SEAL team.
Hummel, he's trying to call for a ceasefire.
Yeah.
Through all of it. And obviously no one can hear it because
all the guns are going off.
Yeah. And finally, the other SEAL, he comes up. As he's looking around,
because
he gets shot.
He's up there, you could tell he wants to go up and help the other SEAls, but he has orders to stay with Mason, and finally Mason and Goodspeed are like, go, get up there. So he gets up, starts shooting at them. He's still in the little manhole. He's still in the drain, and he gets shot and sort of falls back down the drain. And he's just hanging upside down between Mason and Goodspeed. So Mason gets the guy's gun off him and his radio and sort of leads Goodspeed out of there. Or leaves. He leaves, and then Goodspeed chases him.
Yeah. He's yelling. It's like, sniper's going to get in.
Yeah.
And finally, he gets back in contact with the FBI.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he has a gun. He's getting away. It's like, what do you have?
You have a water pistol? So... yeah, they're getting out of there. And so far, Mason has not been briefed on this mission on why they are at Alcatraz, on what's going on. He just
knows there's hostages. He does not know about the demands or anything else.
No. He just knows, like, his whole need to know was they need him to get into Alcatraz and there's hostages. He doesn't know about the rockets. He doesn't know about the VX gas. He doesn't know about, anything else that's going on there. Yep. So he's like, okay, my job's done. I'm out of here. And
and that's when, Goodspeed, like, briefs him.
Yeah, that's when Goodspeed holds him at gunpoint and he briefs him on what's going on. He's like, there's rockets with poison gas pointed at San Francisco.
Where his daughter lives.
Where your daughter lives. And so that is enough to get Mason
him on board, right?
to change his mind about leaving and decides to help Goodspeed.
And so, they find that the seal that went up, the last one went up, that his gun is missing.
Yeah, they found that seal's gun's missing. So they know that they have a rat in the pipes.
So they try to fire them out.
A few of the Marines go around to look for him, and Stanley's being so loud that they easily hear him through one of the drains, through one of the grates in the floor. And so, they toss a couple grenades down there, and Stanley and Mason go running away, and then they actually have, like, an explosive pack that they throw, like a homemade explosive, like, napalm pack that they toss down there. And Mason and Goodspeed narrowly escape the explosion, but they're sure that they got him.
But they didn't. So now they're going to disable the rockets.
Yeah, so they're using the pipes to go to sneak around to the different areas of Alcatraz to where they have
and they have like they have kind of like the infrared to kind of know where the rockets are.
All but three of the rockets are in one room. They took they were intending to take 15 rockets initially. They got, I think, 12 out, 10 or 12 out before that one ball had fallen and they had to abort the rest of the mission.
Correct.
So most of them were in this one room, and they get into that room, and Goodspeed's taking the rocket apart, gets the balls that have the gas in them out, and he's like, "Oh, string of pearls formation, elegant but highly unstable."
Well, that's after Mason kills a couple of them, right? Like, because they got guys guarding.
Yeah, there's guys guarding it.
He just walks in, he just throws a knife.
Yeah.
Straight through the dude's throat.
Yes.
And then he's like, "You must never hesitate."
Yeah, you must never hesitate. And that comes back later.
And then they have this little bit of a shoot up between him and the other guy, and then he gets able to get down. He shoots the guy in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he falls back, and the guy's about to throw a grenade at him, and then there's an AC unit overhead.
An AC unit overhead.
He just shoots up the back.
Shoots that, and it falls and crushes the guy's head.
While he's trying to disable it, Goodspeed's looking at it, it's like, that's messed up.
Yeah, that's messed up. Yeah, he's like sitting there trying to unscrew the panels on the rocket, and he's like, "You've killed people before. Is that normal?" And the guy's foot's twitching. Mason looks at him like, "You mean the foot thing?" He's like, "Yes, the foot thing. It happens."
Oh my goodness.
So he, as he's taking the rocket apart, he hands Mason the gas balls. He's like, "Hold this," and Mason starts to pick it up to get a closer look at it. He's like, "Don't move that. Hold it still. If one of those things breaks, we're both dead." And then he explains to him that he's got to take these chips out of the rockets because that's
what navigates.
Yeah,
the rockets.
That's how they navigate. So without the chips, then they're just going to splash down in the bay. And so they get through. They take all the rockets apart. They get them all the chips out of those, and there's still 3 more rockets that aren't in that room. There's 3 more on the island somewhere. They don't know where. And so Stanley's got all the chips in his pocket, and they're trying to go find the other rockets.
Meanwhile, they can't get in contact with the guys guarding that room. So they realize, they're still not dead.
They realize the rat problem's still around.
And their demands have still not been met either, which they're not happy about.
No, they're not.
So they start toying with the idea that maybe they need to execute hostages.
Well, no, they start toying with the idea of launching one of the rockets.
Right. Yeah.
And so or does that come later?
I think that comes then. I know that they also think about actually in hostages because they do bring one out.
Yeah, but that's later. That's a little bit later.
Yeah, that's before the two of them get like caught.
Yeah. So they launch a rocket.
Did they launch it there at that point?
Maybe this is when it cuts back to the FBI team, and that's when they're explaining if one of these rockets goes off in the atmosphere, it'll wipe out the entire city.
Yeah.
And, because just like a drop of this stuff will kill everybody in this room.
Yeah. Because you have the scene where they kind of get traced on the rail cars, which is where John McGinley gets set on fire.
Yeah. Where you get shot in the foot and then set on fire.
And he gets dropped.
But that comes after the first launch, though, because they launch a rocket and then Ed Harris, Hummel.
That's right.
Redirects it so it splashes down.
He redirects it at just, that's right.
And so then there's two rockets left, and that's when, so they're going through the bowels of Alcatraz again, and John McGinley is like, looks like our rat problem still exists, and so he's like, then Hummel's like, well, you better go take care of it. So that's when they're on the little ore carts.
Yes.
So they're down there in the bowels of Alcatraz, and John McGinley and his team come down, and there's another firefight, and they're chasing each other on ore carts, kind of like Temple of Doom. And then there's the end of the track goes, and there's another one of those little hanging carts that is hanging from a track on the ceiling. And so as the cart starts to go over the edge of the track, over the end of it, Goodspeed grabs onto that hanging cart and he pulls himself up into it. Meanwhile, Mason was still in the cart when it went over. Mm-hmm. And so Goodspeed's wondering where he is, and he managed to grab onto the bottom of the track.
Right.
And he's hanging there while John C. McGinley and one of his other guys is walking up to the end of the track. And so that's when he shoots John C. McGinley in the foot and then sets him on fire.
I like John C. McGinley.
I do too.
It's rough to see this happen to him.
Yeah.
And then he drops him.
Yep. But then, there's another firefight in those hanging ore carts.
Yep. And then, Goodspeed's in one of them, and one of the other guys, one of the other Marines, throws a grenade in there, and
so
he picks it back up and
throws it back
at him.
So then Mason gets into one of them along with. So one of them is there's one of them shooting at Goodspeed. Goodspeed's in one of the hanging carts, and then there's a guy behind him in another hanging cart that's shooting at him. Mason gets into that cart and is fighting the guy.
Yeah.
And then Goodspeed gets out and pulls out his gun, and when the guy's about to kill Mason, shoots the Marine that is fighting with Mason.
That's right. Yeah.
Mason gets out. He's like, I'm glad you didn't hesitate too long.
I guess that's technically his first direct kill.
Yeah.
He was just tossing the grenade to get out.
Yeah.
Right. So, but finally, Hummel is still irritated by all this, and that's when he gets on the loudspeaker about having a hostage.
Yeah.
That he's going to execute it. Bring the chips back.
Yeah. So they get one of the hostages, take him outside, and at this point, they think because everybody who's met up with Mason and Goodspeed is dead. So everybody else who's on Hummel's team thinks there's only one person. They don't know that there's two. So they see that there's these, they say that they see that they're getting a hostage to execute. And so Mason decides he's going to turn himself in so that Goodspeed can go find the other rocket or find the next rocket and disarm it. And so they do that. And Mason sees him outside with the hostage. And he walks up there and he has a conversation with Hummel. And, you can tell there's a mutual respect there between the two of them.
Oh, yeah. And they have a little conversation, and he kind of talks about, Mason kind of point blank that the whole plan is kind of lunacy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He has respect, but at the same time, he's like, no, the way you go about this is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So when he's being released from prison, on his shelf in the cell, he has a copy of The Art of War.
Yes, he does.
This is, he also, I think, has the complete works of Shakespeare on there as well.
Yeah, he does. No. That's on there too.
A little bit different.
But
again, he's an educated man.
Yeah. So Fry is out there with him, and he's just telling Hummel to kill him.
Yeah.
But, Hummel doesn't necessarily want to kill him.
Yeah, no. Because that's not in him to do that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, while this is happening, Goodspeed's able to disable another one, but then he gets captured.
Yeah, he gets captured, and then they need to know, then they still don't know where the last rocket is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Goodspeed gets captured, and then they bring Mason back to where Goodspeed is.
Yeah, and they're basically the same wing of the prison, but on different floors, but just above each other. They're talking and
and because Mason turned himself in, they did not execute the hostage.
Right, which Hummel probably would not have done.
No, Hummel wouldn't have done that.
Fry would have done it.
Yeah, Fry definitely would have done it. But Hummel, yeah, he was bluffing. Yeah, he wasn't going to execute a hostage.
But it's funny, Goodspeed's just talking about how, there's a bunch of these Marines trying to be macho and kind of going through certain stereotypes of some military members, right?
Yeah.
But he wants to know, ultimately, how he escaped. He understood,
because they're locked up. So,
not how he escaped, specifically out of his cell.
Yes, because that's some information that would be very useful to us right now. But yeah, that's the part where he's like, they're each locked in a cell on different levels of the same cell block, and so he's like, so I get that you escaped through the pipes, you went down through the incinerator, swam across the bay, which is cool, by the way. But how in Zeus's butthole did you get out of your cell?
and then he hears a whole boom, boom. Right?
Meanwhile, during this whole conversation, Mason is stripping the bed of the sheets. He's tearing them up and braiding them together.
It's still a dressed bed.
Yeah. After 33 years at this point.
I can get within the tourist wing where they allow people to experience what a cell would have been like in Alcatraz, how those cells might actually look like, might have bed sheets on.
Yeah.
But they're in some other wing that probably the tourists never see.
Although it could have, I think it might have just been the mattress that he was tearing up. But still, why are there still mattresses on the beds?
He gets one, and he pulls it down.
It was just the cover of the mattress.
Right? And then finally he gets
the one for his. He's able to hook the levers that are over there that control the doors.
Which, by the way, if this is the way he escaped, that's still really fucking impressive.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Able to do that.
Yeah.
Escaping the attention of the guards.
Yeah. Especially since, he would have had to have gotten it on his first try. The right door. Because if he got somebody else's, then they would have gone off. And although maybe that's how he did that to create a distraction.
That's a good point.
Open another cell door so that inmate tries to escape. All the guards are going after him, and then he can get his door open and go the other way. But yeah, so Mason's door opens up, and while Goodspeed is still trying to talk to him and figure out how he got out of there, his cell door opens, and Mason's just standing there waiting for him. And so they go. Yeah. Meanwhile, so Fry and Darrow figure out that Hummel is the one that redirected the rocket that they launched.
Right. They're not happy about this.
No, they're not.
They want to get.
Yeah, they want to get paid.
They're not concerned about the actual grievance.
No.
That Hummel has.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while this is also happening, there's a backup plan that they fail.
Yes, there's a backup plan where they're going to send
thermite plasma that will neutralize the gas, but then it'll also kill everybody on the island.
Yeah. Thermite plasma is basically, it burns hotter than napalm.
Yeah.
It's one of the only things that can neutralize VX gas, that can burn it up.
The problem is that there's 70 hostages on the island that will also be incinerated.
Yeah, I think there's 83 hostages or something like that.
So,
but yeah,
they're obviously they're concerned about that. I get that. So, and
which
the president finally gives.
Did that school class get back on the boat and go back?
Yeah, I don't know, because the teacher was like, well, why do you want to go?
Yeah,
because they had told us to.
Yeah,
which might have been easy enough. Some strange man's talking to some girls.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
But, it was the mid-90s, so there wasn't quite as much stranger danger at that time as there is now.
I don't know.
I don't know. But yeah, so...
We haven't really seen a lot until, had the one guy they held hostage. We've gone probably over an hour without seeing any of the hostages.
Yeah.
Outside the initial conflict.
Yeah.
We never saw Ranger Bob again.
Nope. Not after the black lady berated him for not carrying a gun.
They realize they're going to be there for probably over a day. They probably should have actually, they should have separated the sexes.
Yeah.
Because, someone's got to take a piss at some point.
Yeah.
Take a shit.
Yeah. Because they're in there for a while.
Ranger Bob's going to poop in front of that lady.
Yeah. Yeah, Ranger Bob. Yeah, he's not going to want to poop in front of people.
Anyway, where were we?
Yeah, so they escape the cells.
Yeah, we talked about the thermite plasma, and they got out of the cells. Right.
Yeah, so Mason and Goodspeed are making their way through, and they come across an argument with Hummel and Baxter arguing with Fry and Darrow.
Well, wait, no, even before that, right after that, like he's
Sergeant Crisp is in there too.
Mason's gonna leave. And then he decides against it. This is, some other guy. Yeah, it's kind of like at this point now.
That's right. Yeah, they're trying to get out of there, and Mason's gonna leave, so he leaves, and one of the Marines spots Goodspeed.
Yes.
Outside, so he's got him at gunpoint. He gets Goodspeed down on his knees, and he's standing behind him with his rifle, and he's gonna execute him because Mason was getting ready to leave, go back, swim back to the mainland, and
warn Jade.
Yeah, and to go and get Jade out of there. And so, when Stanley was trying to stop him, that's when he got caught again.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to reason with the Marine that's got him at gunpoint. He's trying to explain what's going to happen, what's going to go on with, they're going to drop thermite plasma bombs, and it's going to just completely wipe out the place. So what you need to do, just give me the gun and get out of here. Meanwhile, Mason sneaks up behind the Marine and snaps his neck. And gets his gun. And so as soon as Goodspeed says, just hand me your gun, he rests the gun on his shoulder. He's like, you made the right choice.
And see, it's Mason.
Yeah.
Mason's got a heart of gold.
Yeah.
He remembers Goodspeed's got, a baby on the way.
Yeah.
He doesn't want that baby to grow up without a father.
Yeah. He even tells him that. He's like, I can't let your baby grow up without a father. Because he knows what it's like to let his baby grow up without a father.
Exactly. Because he's a badass with a heart of gold.
Yes. So they go back in, and this is when they come across the argument with Fry and Darrow arguing with Hummel, and then Baxter's kind of standing out to the side, not really participating in the argument.
Trying to think, okay, what's his angle on this, right?
Yeah.
So.
And then also Sergeant Crisp is there too, Bokeem Woodbine.
Yeah.
And
he's kind of in the same position.
He's kind of position as Baxter, yeah.
He stands up, but he doesn't really want to murder these other guys.
Yeah.
Over this, right? But they're trying to mutiny on them.
And so
they're standing off, kind of off the side as this is going on. And you think, Baxter's going to so they actually side with them.
They get to Baxter and they're like, help us with this, help us, arrest him. And so Baxter's like, General, I've spent a lot of years under your command.
Always a bluff.
Yeah.
There's always a bluff.
Yeah. It's always been.
Even earlier, Mason tells Goodspeed, he doesn't actually have murder in his eyes.
He saw that when he talked to him outside. Yeah.
So
so he's like, this entire mission from Hummel's point of view was all a bluff. He never intended to fire a missile at San Francisco. He was just trying to scare them into meeting his demands.
Yeah, and his demands again, the demands for him more or for
the families of his fallen comrades,
and then getting the money to them.
Yeah,
not about money for himself.
No,
on Fry and.
So Baxter, he's like, sir, it's been an honor serving with you all these years. And he pulls his gun and points it at Hummel.
Right, but as you said, the mission's over. Right.
Yeah. As you said, the mission's over. Points him at Hummel, and then.
But then he quickly turns it.
Then Fry and Darrow tell Crisp to cuff Hummel.
Yeah.
And then that's when Baxter found out he was bluffing. And he turns his gun on Darrow, and he shoots him in the shoulder.
Yeah.
Shoots Tony Todd in the shoulder. And so then that starts a firefight in that room. And meanwhile, Mason and Goodspeed are right outside the door, and there's a little mail slot. So Mason puts his gun in the mail slot and starts firing. To try to help Hummel out a little bit, because they realize Hummel knows where the last rocket is. So if they can talk to him,
they need him alive.
They need him alive so that they can get that information.
If Darrow and Fry survive, they also know, but they would try to launch him.
So Hummel gets shot, and he's kind of trying to crawl away.
Baxter gets shot. He's dead.
Yeah. Chris gets shot, doesn't he?
Chris, he's dead. Yeah, he gets shot. He gets killed.
Yeah. So then Fry and Darrow.
Ultimately, Hummel he's mortally wounded too, right? And then
so he's laying on the ground, and so then Mason and Goodspeed bust in the room, and they grab Hummel and drag him out.
Yes.
Before Fry and Darrow can kill him, and so they ask him where the last rocket is, and he tells them it's in the lower lighthouse.
Yeah.
And
then he's thinking about like, what have I done? Right, you can tell there's remorse. That like he's thinking about like all these SEALs that got killed.
Yeah,
right. All the Marines in his command that he's let do all these things that got killed.
Yeah, like every member of his team has been killed now except for Darrow and Fry.
Yeah, and like even like all these hostages, like this experience that they have to go through. Right, so he dies. Right, and it's so just at this point it's just Darrow and Fry that are left.
So Hummel tells him that the last rocket's at the lower lighthouse. So what was it that separated them again?
I can't remember what separated them at that point because
Mason sends Goodspeed to the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And then what was it that Mason was trying to do?
Oh no, because there was still a few of the Marines. Oh, because there was a sniper that was trying to. Yeah,
that's right. Yes, that's right. There were still a few Marines left. So Mason was going to go take care of the other Marines. He sends Goodspeed to the lighthouse to take care of the rocket.
Yeah, because he's about to get the rocket, and then like you got Steve Harris as a sniper. He's about to take him out, and then there we go.
And Mason sneaks up behind him and takes him out.
Yeah, and then Tony Todd shows up.
Yeah. Then Tony Todd shows up. So at the White House, at the lighthouse. So at the lower lighthouse, he's trying to.
He's able to get he gets all the gas out, and he puts it in a little like sewer grate. He arranges it there, and then he still wants to disable the rocket, but then Darrow shows up, right?
Yeah. So before he can disable the rocket, then Darrow shows up, and
they're
talking, and he's like, and Goodspeed's holding on to before he puts it in the grate. He's holding on to the thing.
He's holding on to it.
And he's like, do you know how this shit works? And then Darrow pulls out a big knife. He's like, do you know how this shit works?
It's like, oh. It's like, do you like music? Right? And they're going around the rock.
Yeah, he's like, do you like music? How about like Elton John, Rocket Man?
John, like Rocket Man?
And he's like, I don't listen to soft ass shit.
And then he stands directly in front of the rocket.
Because so Goodspeed realizes he's standing right next to the launch controls for the rocket. he's like, oh, I only asked because it's you. You're the Rocket Man. And he hits the launch button, and it launches the rocket right into Tony Todd.
With a fucking rocket.
It knocks him out of the window, and as the rocket goes flying off to splash down in the water, Tony Todd goes falling out the window and gets impaled on a fence post.
As if getting shot point blank with a rocket.
What year did Broken Arrow come out?
It was 95, I think.
Yeah. So, in a year, we've had 2 movies where one of the main bad guys, spoiler alert for Broken Arrow, where one of the main bad guys was killed by a rocket being launched at them point blank.
But then the best part of it is after it happens, he looks just like, how do you like how that shit works?
All right, so then that's when the sniper is out there.
Yeah,
because he's getting shot at the sniper, so he's hiding behind the lighthouse, and that's when he puts one of the gas balls broke off of the
sliding, and he dives, and thankfully he doesn't smash his hand on it.
Yeah, he dives and catches it, and then puts the rest of the gas balls in the grate.
Yeah,
and then so then he puts the one ball in his pocket, which then he's constantly pushing up against stuff. All this that would break that weird. Ball in his pocket.
This is the one part.
All it took at the beginning was that it rolled over and tapped the wall.
This is the one point in the movie where, okay, I could suspend my logic and disbelief for a lot of things. No, it's on your chest.
He puts it in his chest pocket.
Hand-to-hand combat
with Fry, with a Marine. So Mason takes out the sniper, and then Fry catches up to Goodspeed.
Meanwhile, while this is happening, like the Jets have left.
The Jets have left, and they're on their way to the island.
Like
they're a few minutes out.
By the way, one of the pilots is Jim Caviezel.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Another person in this movie.
Yeah. So anyway, Fry and Goodspeed are fighting. Goodspeed keeps getting punched in the chest pocket where the gas ball is, but somehow it doesn't break. But Goodspeed is Fry is on top of Goodspeed, and he's like trying to strangle him, and he's about to kill him when Goodspeed reaches into his pocket, pulls out the ball, shoves it into Fry's mouth, and then jams his chin up so it breaks the ball in his mouth.
He vomits up.
He vomits up the liquid gas in there, the contents of the ball, and Goodspeed kind of pushes him off himself, gets inside, and
he's still within the radius of the gas.
He's been exposed to the gas, so he pulls out his big ass needle and he shoves it into his heart.
Yep.
And injects himself with the stuff.
And, you have Mason now. He's jogging on the outside, the perimeter of the island, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his plan now is to get out there and swim across and get the Jade, right? So there was supposed to be a signal that once they neutralize the target.
Yeah, they're supposed to.
Yeah, everything. They were going to set off green flares.
Yeah. So
that's what it was.
All the members of the team had green flares in their pocket.
Yeah.
So that they could do that, and once they neutralized all the rockets, set off the green flares, and they had
the spotters across the bay that are waiting to see this to signal everybody else that to like the FBI team that it's done.
Yeah. So the planes are coming in, and they're seconds away from the airstrike, and they're like, "All right, are we gonna do this? Are we going to drop these bombs on the island?"
And meanwhile, Goodspeed, he's taking the shot to the chest, but he's still, fairly incapacitated. He's kind of on his knees, kind of crawling. He's able to kind of strike the flares, and he's trying to get them up, and he finally kind of gets them up. Kind of, you kind of think about the tarmac kind of person,
So he's up there. He's out there on his knees on the lighthouse, and he's holding these flares up. And the flight leader sees the flares. He's like, "We got green smoke. We got green smoke. Abort mission. Abort. Abort."
And one
person, one of the pilots, got a little bit overzealous, and he dropped his bomb right before the leader said abort.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "I already dropped it."
Lands. There's an explosion, and they're like,
explosion behind Nicolas Cage, and
the force knocks him into the bay,
into the Michael Bay.
Meanwhile, they're listening to this at the command center with the FBI, and his fiance's hearing it, right? And
they're all thinking that he just got killed.
Everyone's kind of wondering, okay, not all of them got dropped, but one got dropped. Right.
Yeah.
So
but luckily, it impacted on an area of the island where nobody
the back
was.
of the island. That's really no one was, and
it didn't really affect the prison at all.
Nicolas Cage is back there, but I guess it was far enough away from him that just the force
shock
of it
wave just pushed him.
Yeah, but thankfully Mason was able to retrieve his body from water, so he didn't drown, and pull him out. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because he landed in the water, and if you remember, Goodspeed is not a strong swimmer.
Nope.
So Mason saw where he landed. He dove into the water, and he saved him. He was getting in touch with his inner Hasselhoff. And he rescued him from the water. And then, so they're standing there on the shore talking, and Goodspeed.
I love it. You know what the etymology of your name is?
Yeah. Do you know the etymology of your name? Goodspeed. It's Godspeed. What you'd say to someone to send them off on a voyage, or on a successful voyage. And then Goodspeed tells him that all the scuba gear and all that stuff is still over where they left it, so that that Mason should go and get it and get out of there
because the pardon got ripped up.
Yeah, because Womack ripped up the pardon.
Yeah, and they talk about have any thought about honeymoon?
Yeah, because at this point, Womack and the rest of the FBI are on their way to the island.
Yes.
So, he's like, you better go get the scuba gear and get out of here, because Womack ripped up your pardon, and Yeah, so he does. They go their separate ways. Goodspeed waits for... Yeah, Mason gives him...
honeymoon in Kansas.
Yeah. He's like, let's go your honeymoon in Kansas. Like, I don't know. We weren't really thinking about Kansas. We were thinking about going on an island somewhere. And he's like, no, Kansas.
And he gives him a little slip of paper.
Yeah, gives him a little slip of paper. And then he looks at it. He's like, huh, it's a church. He's like, front pew, left foot, left leg. Like, is this what it... He looks up. He's like, is this what I think it is? And by that time, Mason's gone.
Right. And then they radio in, and he's talking with, like, Womack, and it's like...
No, he's talking to Paxton. He's talking to Paxton.
Yeah, that's right. He's Paxton. Like, Mason's dead. And they come and get him. Paxton's on the island. It's like, oh, you got vaporized.
Yeah. He's like, so Mason's dead, huh? It's like, yeah, you got vaporized.
You can tell
like,
Paxton doesn't care one way or the other.
Okay. Yeah, he's like, you could kind of tell that Paxton knew that he was lying.
Yeah.
Especially when Womack comes walking up.
Womack comes like, I want to see a body.
I want to see Mason. Where's Mason? And, Goodspeed's like, he's dead. And it's like, I want to see a body. And Paxton's like, he's vaporized.
He's vaporized.
Like, a person can be vaporized?
It's like, oh, yes, sir.
It's like, yes, sir. You can tell Paxton at least has an idea that Goodspeed's lying and that he just let him go. But
I get it, because I think Paxton was probably a little bit annoyed that he wasn't told like the entire truth about Mason, and he realizes that he was kind of lied to about like the danger that he was.
Yeah.
We forgot about this point too. I was thinking about this because now we're getting back to Goodspeed and his fiance and Carla, right? And it was like a little bit early in the movie, like after the Marines get killed, not the Marines, the SEALs.
Yeah.
And
the Marines got killed too, but yeah.
Yeah. Before they start disabling everything and killing the Marines. Goodspeed's like, I'll do my best. Best.
Oh yes, yeah. So when I can't believe we missed that part. But when they're underwater, he's like, "I'm doing my best." When they're like after they're still underground, and Goodspeed's trying to explain why he's not doing a very good job. He's like, "I'm doing my best," and Connery's like, "Your best? Losers always whine about their best. Winners go home and fuck the prom queen."
Carla was the prom queen. I love the little look in Connery's eye.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
He's like, oh, okay.
Touche.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally, it cuts, and there was this whole point earlier about how Goodspeed drives this old, like a really old Volvo.
Yeah. An old Volvo. And
you see it there at this church.
In the middle of nowhere. And you just see the exterior of the church. You see Carla in the driver's seat of the car, sitting outside this church, kind of tapping on the steering wheel, like,
she's nervous.
Come on. And then
finally, Nicolas Cage comes running out, and the priest comes running after.
Yeah. And Nicolas Cage is holding on to the leg of a pew.
Yep.
And he goes running around, gets in the passenger seat of the car, and tells Carla to drive. And as she's driving off, you see on the back window it says "just married." It's got the cans dragging behind.
Then he's got a little microfilm. He the magnifying glass.
Takes the little microfilm out of the leg of the thing, and leg of the pew, and
he's like, "Carla, you want to know who really killed JFK?"
And then the credits roll. And
that's The Rock.
That's The Rock. Fantastic movie. It's just a great action movie. Great mid-90s
action movie. It's such a great action movie.
It's so much fun to watch.
It's not overly long. Which sometimes I think certain action movies start to get overly long.
It's a little over 2 hours, but it doesn't feel like it's like it's not like a long over 2 hours.
Superfluous. The chemistry between Connery and Cage is great.
Mm-hmm.
And all the other supporting characters are great. And it's fun. It's not like Hummel's this memorable villain, but he does a great job with what he does. Like, you understand his grievance.
Yeah.
You love it. And then it allows the secondary villains to be the true villains.
Yeah.
And then, you get excited when they get, they get offed. So, again, it's such a 90s action movie. Random profanity, like we said, and car chase, explosions.
Yeah, everything
cities.
Everything that Michael Bay is known for is in this movie.
Yeah, it's such a Michael Bay movie, but it's the pinnacle of Michael Bay.
Yeah,
Like, like when you look at some of his later movies, like, again, some of the antics of some of these, like, supporting characters.
Yeah.
You see that in Armageddon. You see it in Transformers, but it gels so well.
But this is back when a Michael Bay movie, when story was just as important as explosions.
Yes.
Story and casting and everything, the script, everything was just as important as explosions.
Correct.
Some of the more modern Michael Bay movies, that's not necessarily the case. I'm sorry if you're a huge Michael Bay fan of his, like a fan of his more recent stuff. We're not.
Yeah.
But some of his early stuff like this, we love it.
Like, Pearl Harbor was kind of when you start seeing go down. Like, it wasn't the right choice for him, but
yeah.
And it's funny because I thought, like, I know, I both think that The Island really isn't that bad of a movie.
No, it's not. It's
Transformers has its moments too. Transformers has its moments, but then the sequels just...
Yeah, the sequels kind of go downhill until Bumblebee. I really enjoyed Bumblebee.
But
it's also not a Michael Bay directed one. He just produced it.
Yeah, but it's funny because we mentioned Hot Fuzz earlier. I mentioned that references Bad Boys 2 very heavily, which is one that's like, okay. I thought that one's probably over the top. Like, that's when you start leaning too heavily into things.
Yeah, but
this is when he's dialed in on The Rock. He really is.
And it's a good soundtrack too. The score for this movie is great.
Hans Zimmer. It's Hans Zimmer.
Yeah,
of course it's gonna be good. And it's like one of the last like great Connery roles.
Yeah, it's great. I mentioned this in the Gladiator episode about the soundtrack from that. But yeah, so back when I was taking Taekwondo. So my instructor he had a couple of CDs in his CD changer that, he would play tracks from for like belt ceremonies and stuff like that while we're all sitting out. And the first track that played on this movie, like that opening music, that was one of the tracks that he would play for every belt ceremony.
I can see that.
So he would usually play one or two songs from this, one or two songs from Gladiator, and then I want to say Speed was another one that he had.
Well, Speed we might get to. Like, it's also action R-rated movie blockbuster.
Yes, we will definitely get to Speed eventually. If not during the summer blockbusters, we'll definitely do it sometime. But
when we can eat Jimmy John's and talk about it.
Yes. But anyway, so anything else that you want to say about The Rock?
I don't think so. We covered it well. I'm glad we remembered about the Prom Queen.
Yes, me too. Me too. I can't believe we missed that, like, during that part of the discussion. Good call bringing that back up.
Bad.
I mean, that's like the best line in the whole movie.
We've had to re-record the entire episode.
I know. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, if you enjoy the podcast and you want to, interact with us on social media, we are on Facebook and Instagram and Threads. It's Rob and Tony's Cinematic Adventure. The "and" is spelled out A-N-D. It's not an ampersand like the title of the podcast is. Then we are also on Letterboxd. If you have a Letterboxd account and you want to see our ratings on different movies and reviews and stuff on them, some are from movies that we talked about on the podcast, some are other movies. Just, interact with us on there. But that is Cine Adventure or Cine Adventure, CINE Adventure. And we are also on X or Twitter. That is RNT Cinematic. So you can find us in all of those places on social media and give us a like, a follow, all of that if you enjoy the show and you want to just be able to interact with us there. If you want to send us an email, our email address is robandtonycinematicadventure@gmail.com. Once again, the "and" is spelled out A-N-D because you can't really do an ampersand in an email address. So, yeah, if you want to let us know what you thought about The Rock. If you are a huge Michael Bay fan and you enjoy some of his more recent stuff, let us know. Yeah, we want to know what you want, what movies you like, what movies you don't like. What movies do you think we maybe should do on the podcast sometime? Because, we're always looking for suggestions. We have a long list that we put together ourselves, but that's an ever-evolving list, and we're always looking for suggestions. We want to do some stuff that you want to hear us talk about. So anyway, and then just go onto your favorite podcast app wherever you listen to us, and if you enjoy the show, give us subscribe to our podcast. Give us a good rating, a good review. That's how we move up in the standings and in the search so that more people can find us and we can reach more ears and get some more followers and be able to get our podcast out there to more people and share our love of movies with the world.
Correct.
So anyway, next time we are going to be jumping forward in time a little bit from here. We're going to go to 2010. We're going to go to a 2010 movie. It'll actually be our second
director.
Yes, our second movie from Christopher Nolan. Tony, what movie are we going to be doing next time?
We're going with Inception, which I'm excited. It's, we're looking back over the last 20 years, one of the few original blockbusters.
Yeah.
And so many are based off of franchises or previous source material.
Yeah, this is this is an original movie that was a blockbuster, and it was a great movie. It's been a while since I've seen it. It's been years since I've watched it, so I'm real excited to watch it again. And
incidentally, the night that we're recording this is the 19th anniversary of the release of Batman Begins.
Yes,
which really helped propel Christopher Nolan towards the mainstream to be able to do an original movie like Inception.
Yep.
Become a blockbuster.
Yep.
So I'm excited. There's a lot to talk about it. And it's a movie that's kind of, over the last, it's been almost, 14 years, that's maintained itself as a cultural kind of touch point in a way. So
yeah. So I'm really excited to do this one.
It's probably been I'd say at least 8 years since I've seen this. So
it's probably been longer than that for me. It's probably been
I've seen the movie a lot of times.
Yeah.
After it originally came out, but just haven't had a chance to watch it recently the last several years. So
it's probably been like 12, 13 years since I've seen it.
Wow.
So it'll be real nice to watch it again. So yeah. Anyway, I'm really excited to do this one again. So join us next time for Inception. We will see you then.